Chapter 28. Cam. Cam and Mike arrived back at the warehouse and immediately began preparations to move their base of operations to another location. Cam was of the opinion they should move every night, or at least every 2 or 3 days. Mike took the suggestion under consideration. Inside the warehouse, Cam sought out Alex and Manny and was about to lay out his plan to find a Korean interpreter. Abruptly, he realized that one of their co-workers had just been murdered, and they should be told about it. "What's up, man?" Alex asked when Cam started to speak and then stumbled on his words. Cam swallowed hard, trying to clear the passage of his throat for the words to come. Jim was killed tonight, fellas," he said finally. Manny pressed forward. "What? Where? How?" he demanded. "At the overpass. They had a checkpoint, and they killed him in cold blood." "You and Mike were supposed to check that area," Alex's voice and his glare were accusing. "We did. They had people hidden under the overpass where we couldn't see." "Did you guys even try looking?" Manny demanded, his voice louder now, drawing Mike's attention. "If we'd gone down there, we'd all be dead. They took my family, man. You think I didn't do everything I could have at the time?" Kemp said, his anger welling in his voice. "I need your help now, guys." Alex shook his head. "What the hell happened, Cam?" "They tried taking him and he resisted, and they shot him for it." Mike approached the group. "Jim taught us a valuable lesson. We cannot submit no matter what. Jim stopped for them instead of taking action to get himself and Cam's family off the X, and he's dead because of it." "Did you guys watch the whole thing?" Manny murmured, his tone a little more reflective. "We did," Mike answered. "They had an APC and a bunch of soldiers. That ground out there is pretty damn flat without a lick of cover from what that APC is sporting up top. So, yeah, we watched. Hell, Manny, Cam here watched his wife and kids get kidnapped and driven off to who knows where. So be careful before either you judge anyone else about how they act under duress. We're all doing the best we can with what we've got." Alex nodded at Cam. "What do you need, Cam?" "I need you guys to find someone in the city who speaks Korean and can act as a translator." "Translator for who?" Manny asked. Cam's voice dropped to a low, dangerous growl. "For the guy we're going to snatch, so I can find out where my wife and kids were taken." "I know a guy." Alex shot Manny a look. When Manny didn't seem to know who he was talking about, Alex shook his head. "Jeez, Manny, know your beat, bro. Steven, the guy from Full Moon Korean Barbecue?" Manny's face cleared with recognition. "Oh, yeah. Does he even habla?" "Yeah, he hablas," Alex said. "I used to hear him yelling at his wife in the back all the time." "You know where he lives?" Cam pressed. They shook their heads. Then Alex chuckled. "Knowing American Korean business owners? I bet he's on the roof of his restaurant with a rifle. Either way, if we go there and he's not there, I'm sure there's paperwork inside the place with his home address on it," Mike mused. "I'm pretty sure he lives in town. I've seen him at some summer festivals and doubt he'd commute in for things like that," Alex said. "Does he know you and Manny?" Mike asked, frowning. His mind was probably 3 steps ahead of whatever answers the cops were about to give. "Sure, he knows both of us," Alex responded tiredly. The dark circles under his eyes and pronounced lines in his face told Mike they were all pushing hard and needed to rest before they got another member of their group killed. Mike scanned the tired faces in the room, nodding to himself. "Okay, here's what I think we should do. You two go to the restaurant and find out where our translator lives. In the meantime, Tim, Cam, and I will go out and identify our target. But before we do any of this, everyone goes down for 4 hours. We hydrate now, take on some food, and then we sleep for 4 hours. After that, game on," Mike ordered, his expression telling every man in the group that he wouldn't tolerate pushback on the subject. "I'm going now," Cam announced, his voice still laced with remnants of the earlier growl. "Then you can go on your own, Marine," Mike shot back. No one here has nods except Tim and I. All those Koreans can see in the dark, so you're at a disadvantage right out of the gate, Cam. You're tired. You probably haven't eaten in a while, and you're dehydrated. I'm not going into the field with you like this. I won't let these civilians run off on a plan marinated in emotion, so all you can die. Mike held up 4 fingers. 4 hours, bro. That's all I'm asking. And then we go, and we go hard. Cam worked his jaw, looking like a strung-out drug addict as he fought to rid himself of the tension-fueled anger ravaging his mind and body. You know I'm right, Mike added, dropping his chin. His resolute gaze didn't waver from Cam's. What are we supposed to do? Rostam piped up from where he and Darian had been listening from a wall in the back. Stay awake while we sleep. Once we're gone, Roberta and Roger will be awake, and you two can sleep. Once it's light outside, just be ready to move. We'll be back, and when we are, we're relocating, Mike said, both answering Rostam's question and laying out his own duties for the evening. Cam thought about arguing, but losing his family was having an almost debilitating effect on his ability to focus, so he remained silent. When the rest of the men moved to their packs and got out food and water, he did the same in an almost detached, robotic manner. He felt as though one half of his mind was battling the other half in an effort to convince his brain that everything was all right, or at the very least, would be soon. The battle was something beyond his control, and it was exhausting him to the point of mild depression. Even the cool water he drank did nothing to emancipate him from his horrific abdication from reality. The food he consumed next only added to his feeling of utter despair, leaving his limbs feeling languid and incapable of moving his mass. Finished charging his combat chassis with liquids and sustenance, Cam rolled into Jen's cot and immediately caught his wife's scent as his head came in contact with her sleeping bag. His mouth opened and closed as if he were trying to speak, but no words came. Instead, tears welled in his eyes, blurring his vision. A second later, and his face felt hot and wet. He rolled over, pressing his face into the fabric of Jennifer Griffin's sleeping bag. It served to wick his tears, but also strengthened her scent for him. He couldn't remember ever crying himself to sleep, but that night he did just that, wrapped in the folds of his missing wife's bedding, alongside strangers he'd only just met, in a homeland occupied by devils from a far-off land. It was 3 a.m. when Tim shook Cam awake. Time to rumble, brother. Cam sat up, his eyes crusted over from the salt of his earlier tears. He felt no compulsion to cry now, however. He swung his feet onto the floor, put his shoes on, then took a moment and rubbed the palms of his hands on his thighs, trying to hasten his body's wake-up routine. Dressed in hiking shoes, jeans, and a long-sleeved shirt with a flannel shirt cover, Cam grabbed his weapons, bucking his shoulders to swing his pack into place. The sound of scraping gear here, or a grunt there, was all he could hear in the darkened warehouse as dangerous men readied themselves to go out into an even deadlier night. When everyone was dressed and stood ready for battle, Mike let everyone know they had no usable information about the enemy except for the KPA forces already known at the Washington Street overpass. Tonight, they would seek out the most likely places for a roadblock, which would be any choke point such as a bridge or overpass. When he finished, he strode toward the front of the warehouse, leaving the others to follow in his wake. When Cam reached the front, Roberta and Roger were already sitting off to one side of the warehouse's front door, staring out into the dark that surrounded the building. Mike and Tim also waited, with Alex and Manny standing not far away. No one spoke, for which Cam was thankful. Each knew what they were tasked with, so there was no need for mindless chatter. Some long-winded, circuitous briefing on a mission they already knew lacked detail and direction was the last thing any of the sleepy men wanted at the ungodly hour of 03:15 hours. In Cam's experience, the early hours of any day usually brought with it far fewer words from the men who were up doing man things. Cam's recollections from his time in the Middle East were that he and his mates talked after the mission, until they all came crashing down off their adrenaline highs and fell asleep. When he looked over at Roberta and she turned back to staring out the front of the warehouse, he reasoned it might not just be a man thing. Perhaps humans as a whole were likely more quiet during the first few hours of any day, especially when death and danger lurked so close by. Kids, on the other hand, seemed to be louder during that time frame, or they were in his experience. That last thought threatened to send his brain back into split personality war again. He quickly pushed any personal thoughts of his children from his mind, instead focusing on what lay ahead in his more immediate future. "Let's do it," Mike whispered, pushing past the rest of the jacked-up men through the doors and into the night. They all rode bicycles, but took it slow, stopping before they passed through an intersection or rounded a corner. Alex and Manny rode with them for 3 blocks before they peeled off towards wherever the Korean barbecue restaurant was located. Cam assumed the lead as they rode through the streets of Petaluma, his bike's tires humming along in the dead silence of the night. It surprised him how loud the tires, chain, and sprockets could be in the absolute absence of any other man-made noise. When they came to a larger intersection that seemed like part of the downtown area of Petaluma, he slowed and transitioned from the street to the sidewalk via a driveway. As he did, he discerned another sound mixed with the soft hum of their tires. Immediately, he ripped the handlebars to the right and guided the bicycle toward the front of one of the many apartment complexes that lined that particular road. As he neared the building, he swung a leg off the bicycle and lowered it carefully to the ground in between 2 of the apartment buildings. He made sure to be off the road and out of sight. The 2 Green Berets dropped their own bicycles as he came up, rifle held high, aimed at the road they'd just come from. As Mike shouldered his own weapon, he gave Cam a look that told him they were on the same wavelength. Ahead, they heard an idling diesel engine. It wasn't far off. Mike pulled his nods over his eyes and scanned the road to the west, and then back between the 2 apartment buildings, looking to the east toward the slough. The area between the 2 apartments was landscaped with grass and several pathways. In several areas, park benches rested for the weary dog walker of days past. The area had likely been a spot people met and socialized away from the confines of their 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. The 3 men were in between the 2 large 4-story buildings that sat along the slough just prior to D Street. Of course, none of them knew the name of the street, but Mike quickly deduced there must be a bridge around the corner where the KPA soldiers manned a checkpoint. In a low whisper, he told Tim and Cam his suspicion before he held a hand up, signaling them to wait and cover his back while he went forward to check it out. As Mike moved forward along the front of the building, Tim took a knee and faced back in the direction they'd come. His rifle held at the low ready, his nods pulled down over his eyes.